I thought of all we'd lost in a year. I thought of our families, friends, and times I could have enjoyed differently. My parents would never be grandparents. My kids, if I ever had kids, would live in a world so very different. All I had was a couple pictures, a couple guns, an abandoned house I might never see again and would not want to. All that was lost, and now my future was stolen away by a virus. My thoughts of my losses brought me to ponder who the thief was that preyed upon our dearest memories, stolen family photos such as Wilcox's, and missing trinkets. I wondered if Jim had any ideas on who the thief might be. I asked him. Stealing? I don't know, he replied. Not just stealing, but taking people's mementos. Well, I've heard rumors. Winters confirmed it the other day, I said. What did he say? Jim asked. Nothing really, just that someone was stealing personal items. A grandfather's pocket knife, a dad's Elks pin, mom's best slippers, stuff like that. It could be anyone, Jim said. Why would someone do that? Steal? Steal family pictures. Steal someone's grandmother's ring. Jewelry can be traded, but family photos? That sure puts a hurt on someone. It's almost psychotic. Someone would have to be really mad to do that, to take away the only things that people have to remember their past. It is psychotic. We stopped talking as we walked, and I enjoyed the clear sunny day. I wanted to talk of brighter and more cheerful things in my limited time before the virus took me. As if sensing my mood, Jim changed the conversation instantly. Where'd you grow up? He said. Broken Arrow. Really? Which school? Canyon. Me too. You're a cowboy? I didn't tell you that? He shook his head. Played football 4 years running. JV and varsity. What year did you graduate? Oh, didn't. Sorry, I forgot. When did you graduate? 2 years ago. That'd make me a freshman when you were a senior. What'd you do after graduation? The only thing a farm boy could do. College? No, correction, a poor farm boy. I joined up. Spent a year in Texas patrolling the border. Then I asked for a transfer to come back home. That was just before the outbreak. I wanted to be close to my family. My mom and dad are old. They were old. I missed the last years of their lives. His eyes became wet. It bothered me to think that he was so attractive and strong, but so sensitive. I remembered his touch from the night before. Like everyone, he'd lost the world he knew and the people he loved. As if he had guessed my thoughts, he said, I've got the Army. It's like a family. Hey, did you ever raft the Illinois River? I asked. Several times. What a blast, he smiled. It was good to see the sadness replaced with happy memories. Me too. The first few times was when I was young, with my parents. Then in high school, a bunch of us rented rafts. Someone brought an older brother, and a cooler full of beer, and a radio. We barbecued on the sandbar in the middle of the river. He stared into my eyes as I talked. When I stopped, he was silent. What? I asked. He leaned in to kiss me. I turned my head, afraid of infecting him. My rejection of his advance seemed silly with what we'd done the night before I knew about my infection. But I wouldn't risk infecting him. Maybe he'd be okay. Maybe I wasn't contagious, but I was about to lose him. I was about to leave him. I would go away and return to living outside like the scabs. My eyes watered, for I was about to become a zombie myself, and I couldn't bear it if he were infected also. What? He said after his lips landed on my cheek. There's something I need to tell you. Okay. There's something about me you don't know. My mind raced. He looked at me like I was crazy. How could I tell him? How could I have infected him? If he wasn't already. Tell me. Shut up, I'm trying to tell you. What's wrong, Julie? Ever since last night, since this morning, you're different. Of course, we're both different, a little anyway. What we did was wonderful. Beautiful, yes, but we shouldn't have. My words faltered. I couldn't speak. I needed to tell him, but I couldn't. I'd only just discovered the sores. I hadn't known I was sick when we'd made love, but how could we have done that with risks? I should have known. Is that what this is about? No, yes. Pick one. We shouldn't have done that last night. So that's it. No. What is it? It wasn't good for you? Concern crossed his face as his fingers caressed my cheek. Don't be stupid. It should have occurred to me to check myself for the zombie virus, but I never thought to look. I should have known. I'd been among the zombies. I hadn't worn my scarf during the dog attack. My arm had been grabbed in the city tower. I must have breathed the virus or gotten scratched. Of course I'd been infected, but why couldn't I tell Jim? Could I be so despicable as to risk him becoming infected and not know myself? He needed to know, but what would he do? What would the guards do to him and to me? The scenarios that played in my mind all ended with my demise. That's it, isn't it? Jim's eyes hardened. Tears streamed down my face. Like a man, like an idiot, he took my pulling away as an insult to his lovemaking, and that hurt me more. Why couldn't he see? Why couldn't he guess? It was so very clear. That's not it, I cried. Then what is it? His tone softened. I can't say. What can't you say? Okay. No, it's not okay. I pulled away from him and he grabbed my arm. Anger boiled within me, for I hated to be grabbed or controlled. It was such a man thing to do, to use force instead of talking. Let me go, damn it! I yelled at him as I yanked my arm from his grasp. The guards watched us. I turned red, my eyes flooded with tears that blurred my vision. Jim stared at me, unspeaking. I ran blindly towards the stairs and almost crashed into Jill, hand in hand with Lopez as they came up through the rooftop doorway. What is it, Julie? She exclaimed. I stopped. My tears burned my face in the cool air, but I didn't care. I sniffed. My head cold made me dizzy. We have work to do, I said to Jill. As I ran down the stairs, Jill lingered for a moment, probably to kiss Lopez, her damn precious prize. In a fit of frustration, I went to my kit and retrieved the fatigue pants from my backpack. Then I searched for Connors and found him by the loading dock, prepping vehicles for the night's raid. Hearing his name called, he looked up from under the hood of the Humvee. I threw the fatigues I'd planned to give to him. Connors grabbed them in the air and smiled curiously at me. I turned around and walked away. Before I reached the door, he shouted, "Thanks!" I waved my hand as I glanced back over my shoulder. He inspected the pants with a stupid grin on his face. They were needed and wanted. I'd find something else for Jim, maybe, if time allowed. If I hadn't infected him. If he lived through the night's attack. If I ever saw him again. For I thought to leave Fort Tulsa immediately, but I wasn't sure of anything. I wondered if I should leave Jill. How could I leave Jim? I didn't want to go. I didn't want to start all over again. I didn't want to wait for death, or worse, life as a zombie. At that moment, I acted on impulse, brought on by my fight with Jim. I wanted to hurt him. I wanted to not love him. I wanted him not to love me. It would all be so much easier if he hated me. I could leave him then to face my fate, but for the very little time I had left, I knew I had to let work consume me. Work that would help me destroy the zombies. Chapter 16. Jill and I were tasked with putting together medical kits. One kit for every Humvee and truck. About 500 people lived in the hospital, minus 200 that would be left behind as sick, injured, the elderly, or toddlers, including a handful of soldiers to protect them. That totaled 300 civilians and soldiers, requiring 25 or 30 vehicles to haul them out. We had 10 Humvees that could seat 4 or 5, an armored truck called a Striker, and 3 deuce-and-a-halfs that could carry 20 men each. Several cargo trucks that could hold a dozen or more people were in the parking lot. Mechanics mounted machine guns to their roofs and welded steel plates to the sides as armor. Jill and I had a lot of medikits to prepare and distribute among those many vehicles. "This sucks," I said to Jill. "Yeah," she replied as she packed boxes with prescription medicine, painkillers, antibiotics, zinc powders, and bandages. "Being excluded." She shrugged her shoulders indifferently. "And all this." "Yeah, I hate it too," Jill agreed. "I don't mean the work," I clarified my thoughts. "I hate that I have no family." "You're not special," Jill said with a sneer. "What does that mean?" I was taken aback. I didn't understand why she had an attitude. "Everyone lost their families." "Well, I know, but—" She stopped packing a box to stare at me. "What?" I asked. She shook her head and went back to packing. I understood what she meant by everyone losing their families, but I still didn't like it. "Jim makes me feel needed." I changed the subject. "Yeah, Lopez does the same for me." "Well, this beats living with the Scabs. Remember them?" She nodded. I hated that. There were no women living there, not many. "Why is that?" I asked. "I don't know," she said. "I think they went into the compounds, quarantine zones." "Then they died." "Yep." "Do you think we did the right thing by coming here?" "Oh, beats being raped." "But when my dad was alive—" "Your dad saved our lives. If we'd gone to the stadium or the arena, we'd be dead when the virus—" "Yeah, I know. I just wonder sometimes if we made the right choices." "Nothing to wonder about." Jill gave me an assuring smile. I hadn't seen her smile in a long time. "But where are all the women?" I asked. "Here. Or dead." "Yeah, I guess most men were like my dad. They either joined the military or became scavengers. Women submitted to the government compounds." "You know, Jill, you are my sister." "Nah," she smiled again, but kept her eyes on her work. "You are," I said, and then dropped the conversation. She did feel like a sister to me, even if we sometimes fought. Although we often bonded, doubts sometimes lingered in my mind as to her loyalty and caring. She seemed at times, as with Lopez, to be all consumed by her own needs and desires. I could do nothing about that. She wanted what she wanted, and often got it. When I got up to move the box that Jill had finished packing, I noticed a photograph on the floor. It was weird. Even before the zombies, to see actual photographs anymore? Without electricity for computers, photographic prints for family members were like gold to their owners. That's what caught my eye. The photograph was of a group of people, a family. I picked it up. Jill saw me and yelled, "Hey, that's mine!" The photo was neither new nor old, printed on paper from a computer as opposed to ancient film print. A man and a woman stood behind a teenage boy and girl. The girl was not Jill. The man, the woman, and the boy seemed vaguely familiar. "Who is this?" She didn't answer. "Family members?" She grabbed at the photograph, but I was standing and she could not reach it. "Who, Jill?" "It's my—" "It doesn't matter. Just give it to me." "No." Jill scrambled to her feet and put her hand out. "Give it back." "Who are these people?" "They're my aunt and uncle." "What are their names?" "Just give me my damn photograph, Julie." I had never heard her talk that way. She was often demanding, but usually polite about it. I gave her the photograph and she stuffed it in her pocket. We worked throughout the day. It took several hours to put together the medical kits. The medical labs were stripped of their supplies for the trip to Oklahoma City, and just a few of our medics would be staying behind with the sick and elderly. The entire place was alive, with everyone working and cooperating. I got additional ammunition for Jill and me, no requisition required. Only gasoline was regulated for the refinery mission. The mission without me and Jill. We were to be left behind.